So first of all, welcome everybody. This is our launch event for Women in Biohealth in 2022. And I do want to also do a little bit of a shout out for another program that we're going to be putting on in March 1st. That's going to be with Lisa Erickson, Senior Vice President of US Bank, and that'll be at noon. So you should have received an email about that. But tonight, we are very excited to have Kate Rodgers, who is the Director of Brand Marketing at InfoSec and part of the Women in Biohealth Steering Committee. She's going to lead a session to share what she's seen in the front lines of cybersecurity industry and actionable steps to protect your information. Her previous role at InfoSec, she led global communications, but previous to the role in InfoSec, Kate led global communications for GE's healthcare, $4 billion of women's health, X-ray and ultrasound business, and has presented nationally on healthcare and technology topics. So we'll hand it over to her. The title of her talk tonight is Be Cyber Smart, 10 Steps to Staying Safe Online. Go ahead, Kate.
Awesome. Thanks, Christina. And if you guys can't hear me okay, please go ahead and just let me know. As Christina said, my name is Kate Rodgers. I'm InfoSec's Director of Brand Marketing. So you might not have heard of InfoSec before, but we are actually located in Madison, right above Red Sushi on West Washington. And we are one of the industry's largest cybersecurity training and education providers. So before I started working in cybersecurity, I did not know about InfoSec. I actually didn't really know about training cybersecurity professionals or training organizations to be more cyber aware. So you might even use our training. So maybe you've heard of us before. And if you have, that's great. I'd love to hear what you think. And if not, hopefully this is a good introduction to some of the cybersecurity topics that I spend a lot of time talking about, and you've probably seen a lot about in the news. So just to give you guys a little bit of background on me, in case you haven't met me, my background's actually in science. So I worked in a research lab towards the end of college and then moved into marketing. I always say that I got someone to, take a chance on me, and I moved into marketing. I did work with BioForward, which is where I helped start Wib, and then moved over to GE Healthcare for a few years, and most recently joined the InfoSec team. So a lot of experience, like a lot of you. And what I can say is that I know that cybersecurity can feel like really overwhelming, and there's a ton of jargon, and it's something new. But all of you work in the bioscience and healthcare industries and actually are pretty used to working in that environment, right? So bioscience has a ton of jargon, or can be hard to understand. It can kind of be daunting if you don't know that much about it. But as you all know, there's a lot of ways to like break that down and make it more consumable, and it really does relate to your everyday life. Cybersecurity is the same way. So I will be the first to admit that I am not, the most tech savvy or the most security savvy or anything like that. But what we're going to talk about today are just some like really low hanging fruits that you can use to be a little bit more secure online. So I think this is a really good way to sum up cybersecurity, and, the fact that on the top, you can do all of these things, you can do everything right in the whole world and spend millions and billions of dollars on technologies that will help keep organizations safe or help keep you safe. And then it's as simple as just clicking on an email. And that can give someone access into your computer, into your files. And if you own a company or are a leader at a company, that can give people access to all of your company's information and sets you up for those bigger attacks that you might see in the news. So before I get into our 10 steps today, I just want to take a step back and talk about data privacy. Last week was Data Privacy Week, and Friday was Data Privacy Day. So I just wanted to kind of set the scene. By definition, data privacy generally means the ability of a person to determine themselves when, how, and to what extent their personal information is used or shared or communicated with others. This personal information could be your name, could be your location, your contact information, or your behaviors. So I think this is something that's really interesting. Your shopping habits online, what you order for dinner every Thursday night via your phone, all of those things are all pieces of data that really do belong to you and relate to you, but maybe aren't always private. And just as you might like want to exclude yourself from like a private conversation, you're probably thinking, you know, how can I make sure that my data is protected and I can exclude it from not being the way used or sold in ways that I don't want online, right? And as the internet usage has increased, the value of this data has gone up, and so is the importance of data privacy. So this is kind of the setting the stage of what data privacy really is. But when you think about it, I mean, think about how many apps that you're using on a daily basis. In 2020, the average smartphone user had 40 apps installed on their mobile phone, which each uses your data in some way, right? They all have your email, they all have a password, they all probably have your name. A lot of them have your address. And things like that. Some of them, you know what shops you're shopping at and what you're looking at and how long. They know if you have kids, right? All these things. And unsurprisingly, or maybe surprisingly, more than half of these apps actually are sharing your information. So it does depend on what set of apps, but if you're in that average user base of 40 apps installed on your phone, about half of them are sharing your information or selling your information for targeted advertising without you even knowing. So this is just to kind of, not to scare you, but to put things, you know, into context that before I started in my current role, I thought, you know, I'm probably fine, right? And it's not that bad. And like, why would someone want to target me? But the truth is that your data is actually pretty valuable. And it's the thing that a lot of hackers are looking for, especially if you work for a big company. You can be a really big payday for them. So that is what we're going to talk about a little bit behind the why inside of the mind of a hacker. If you guys have questions, you can go ahead and type them in the chat too. You can get that queued up though, because I am going to ask some questions for you guys to respond to. So before we do get into how you can protect yourself, I want to just set the scene of like why, like I mentioned, why would someone even want to target you or try and get your data? And it's one of those things that you think like, it's not going to happen to us until it does. And honestly, it probably will at some point of your life. And you're like, why? I'm like the most boring person ever. No one cares. And that's just not true. You know, your information is really valuable and it can help them achieve any, if not all three of these goals. The first one is probably the biggest one, is financial gain. So hackers, you know, either directly or through automated attacks can break into your accounts and systems. They steal your personal information for resale to gain access to other accounts or sensitive information, and then maybe even encrypt your files with ransomware for a hope of like a bigger payout. And sometimes you're the vector and actually not the target. So like I said, a lot of us work at organizations. You're just a stepping stone to get into that organization for a bigger financial prize that they have their eyes on. Disruption of service. So sometimes the motive will really be, the goal will be to shut down critical infrastructure services and demand a payout before they restore access. So maybe you own a business, right? And they shut down your website. You can't take any more payments. You can't do anything like that. Maybe they take over your email and you can't do certain things that you need to do via your email. They kind of, you know, put a gap in this ultimately, usually for financial gain. But the other side of that coin is cheap thrills, which is truly like a lot of attackers just commit these crimes for fun or social standing. So there's a lot of community in the hacker world, and it's kind of like street cred. So it's not like unlike anything that you might see in your community. Hackers are really just kind of a gang of criminals that have a different method than what we're probably used to. So if you are concerned, that's good, because we probably all should be, or at least a little bit aware. But the good news is that you can easily protect yourself from a lot of these cyber threats. And while, you might think that this is really sophisticated and they're using all these like really complicated processes, that's actually not true. Most of them are using things like phishing emails or really basic attacks that you can just buy on the dark web. So the best way to prevent these attacks, which make up over 80% of attacks of all time, is just good cyber hygiene. So we're going to talk about that today. It's going to be a good time. So with that, let's jump into the 10 tips that I prepared to help you protect yourselves, your family, and your employers from cyber threats. So the first is kind of about that last point that I made of, making sure that we're not trusting everyone. And a zero trust mindset is actually trust no one. And this probably seems a little bit paranoid at first, but it's actually an essential part of your online safety. Just because all of this is a well-oiled, well-run, mature industry of cybercrime, the incentive's huge. The tactics are growing and more sophisticated, and attackers are smart. So it's good to be like on the lookout, because they're often looking for weak points of entry, and that could be you. So a good example of where a zero trust mindset could save you thousands of dollars is a fake invoice request. So this could be an attacker sending an invoice pretending to be a trusted vendor and asking for a payment. And maybe this wasn't a payment that you weren't expecting, and from a account or address that you're not familiar with. They usually pretend that their request is urgent, and they threaten with some type of consequence if the invoice isn't paid out. Without a zero trust mindset, you might miss some of those red flags, mismatched information, wrong addresses, unreasonable timelines, and react before thinking. But if you do kind of have this cautious mindset, making sure that you're expecting things, that you read through them, and that you're doing that work of investigating, you'll be sure to not fall for their tricks. So number 2, I'm going to ask you guys to all go ahead and submit your royal name using this this mindset or this format here in the chat. So I will just give you 1 second. So either everyone's been listening, or hopefully I haven't put you to sleep already. But Ginny and Margaret are right in that, this would be, I love this. Look, I gave the zero trust slide and everyone's on it. So you've probably seen these right on the internet. Maybe you've even done it before, or you do like one of the fun face challenges, the challenge like or like they changed your face into a Disney character. This is all information that a hacker could actually use to target you, right? So we've got your grandparents' name, your first pet's name, and the street name that you live on. So you probably see these a lot. These are things that we would call part of your attack surface. So what this really means is like, you should be thinking carefully about each piece of information that you're sharing about yourself online and with others. So in that instance, like I said, It might seem harmless, and with one piece of information, it might seem like it's not that big of a deal, but data and these pieces of information aggregate over time, and hackers are able to scrape data from your social media accounts, data that's been leaked in previous breaches, and even information listed publicly about you, maybe by your company, by colleges, high schools, all these things that they can use to break into your accounts and even impersonate you. We've been seeing a lot more of those types of attacks. But the bottom line is to use discretion when you're sharing your personal information online. Not only is this good for, building your professional reputation as well, but it also keeps you safe. So I love it. Excellent work. Okay, here we go. Okay, so number 3, verify suspicious requests. The saying goes, if it's too good to be true, it probably is. So always treat suspicious requests with scrutiny. Ask yourself, would this person or company really email me about something so serious? How did this person get my contact information? Why are they asking me to share sensitive information via email? If you're still not sure, contact the original sender via a different contact method. So what I've seen a lot of this example come into play is where people will be like, my CEO sent me this request. I need to send $500 in gift cards, right? And if you weren't expecting an email from your CEO, or if you've never talked to your CEO, that would be a good instance to be like, this kind of seems a little suspicious. I'm going to go use a third party method to make sure that I can verify this before I go ahead and reply to anything. So you might seem like, wow, that's so obvious, but in the heat of the moment, we're humans and we want to please and we want to help. So just slowing down and verifying can go a long way. Move in here. And as part of verifying and kind of doing that investigation work on your own, inspecting URLs before clicking them is a great way to make sure that you don't accidentally click on something that you might not want to. If you've heard about phishing, maybe you've heard about it in the news, but if you don't know about it, it's pretty much a type of a hacking attack or method where hackers will send a fraudulent message, and it's designed to trick you into sharing sensitive information or to clicking on a malicious link. So these look like real emails. Maybe your company does company phishing tests. Maybe they've educated you about them. If they haven't, it's something good to know about. It comes into your personal inbox and it will also come into your professional inbox, but they look real. They will typically have some mistakes in them, but they're not always super easy to catch. And this is the most common type of cyber attack, like I mentioned earlier. So it's really a key one to think about. And here we want to make sure that we slow down, we inspect the links before clicking them, especially in these emails. Does the link take you where you thought it would take you? Does it match the destination? Is it from the URL that matches the sender's from address URL? Things like that can kind of help put these pieces together for you. Can definitely help. One example that I just saw this a couple of months ago was a Venmo scam that people they clicked and then it was on the Google search functionality. So if you typed in Venmo, it came up on that first homepage and you clicked it. It looked like the Venmo login, but people were putting their information in and it was actually a fake Venmo storefront. And if you hadn't checked the URL, you would never know. So just an example of what I've seen in the wild more recently. Step 5 is probably the bane of all of your existence. If you're anything like me, one question that I was hoping that you guys could answer is how many passwords do you have or are in your rotation? And if you're we all know what the rotation is like. It's like when you use it a couple different times in different places. 145. Susan, if that's true, that's fantastic. Kayla, amazing. Okay, Margaret. Anyone else? It's okay. As it used to be 3, but now it's way more. Thank you, Jack. 15 plus. Okay. So I'm speaking to an audience who has got their stuff on lock. So using a unique password is especially important when it comes to limiting the amount of access someone can get, right? So if someone were to breach one account, are they going to have access to all of your accounts? And that's a really good question to ask yourself. If you're using your same password for your Facebook that you're using for your bank account and your Facebook account gets breached, attackers can get access to your finances, right? So remember, even if you're really careful and secure online, a website or app can still be compromised. And all of the personal information that you have on that website or that app can get accessed from that breach. And that's why it's really important to not reuse your password. So I know that's really hard. And then making these unique, not making it like the same password 123 for password 12345, something like that, right? So we don't want to make it too easy for them because hackers use tools like password crackers. So the longer that you can make them, the better. What I actually do is I use a password phrase. So that helps like keep something that's easy to remember. And then it's something that like most hackers would never guess, right? So you can be like, the eagle has green wings, which no one would guess, but and it's like something weird that sticks in your brain. So if you're thinking, oh my gosh, Kate, I have 100 account logins. How am I supposed to remember all of them, especially then make them long and complex? Becky is on it. The answer is to adopt a password manager. I use LastPass. Bitwarden's a great one. Keeper is what Becky just shared. So that is what we always recommend to everyone. I at first thought, oh my gosh, this sounds like a huge pain in the butt, but it is a lifesaver. So if you walk away with anything, this is what I would say. Everyone download Password Manager. You can put it on your web app. You can put it on your mobile phone. And then you just have to remember one master password and it will keep everything secure and auto-populate for you, which is amazing. So the password on an iPhone is okay. We definitely recommend the benefit of a third-party app is that they encrypt the files in a more secure way. So where Apple will encrypt it for you and it's secured in one place, password managers like LastPass, Bitwarden, Keeper, they actually take that, they encrypt it, and then they spread it out pretty much. So then if you were hacking and trying to hack into someone, even if you had the ability to de-encrypt these codes, you'd have to be looking on over thousands of databases to get into it. So that is usually the best practice, but something is better than nothing. So I would say Password Manager at all with a variety of passwords is a great place to start. But also, I mean, like, this is me and my tin hat. Like, Susan, if your phone ever got hacked into, or if it got stolen or you lost it or something, all of that information is also on your iPhone. So, all right. Hot topic. We'll keep it moving. So step 6 is enabling multi-factor authentication. This one is a mouthful, but it's basically a complicated way to say secure your accounts by using more than one method to verify your own identity, right? So usually this is a phone number or an app that you might have. Google Authenticator, Microsoft Authenticator is what I use. Best case is that you use that app for the same exact reasons that I just talked about it. They're able to kind of scramble the data as it goes through from the website to you to verifying, whereas a phone number is a lot easier for a hacker to kind of intercept that, right? So like I mentioned before, by doing this, you're already steps ahead of most people. So I still use my phone for a lot of MFA. But if you want top of the class, most secure authenticator apps will help make sure that there's no possibility that someone could be man in the middle is what we call it, but kind of grabbing that data as it's coming through. Number 7, on kind of this whole, trust, don't trust. Download apps from trusted providers. So malicious apps are a really common way that attackers can gain access to your devices and personal information. So think about like maybe a new game that you heard about, right? Like a new like Candy Crush kind of game or something, and you download it and you love it and you're using it all the time, but that app is asking for your GPS location and things like that. Or it's maybe not actually secure. So the best way is to make sure that you are buying apps from the Play Store, that you go and you look for who's creating these apps, right? That they're from trusted developers, that they have a significant amount of reviews and downloads. And always, this is like malicious app, non-malicious app, always check app permissions. If you are see something suspicious, a game shouldn't be asking, like I said, for your sensitive log data, for your GPS location. They don't need it. So use that zero trust mindset here, only download from trusted providers. And even when you do, make sure that you're kind of reading the fine print there so that you're not giving away more than you probably need to. Step 8 is connect to a secure Wi-Fi network. So never connect to a Wi-Fi connection. Never connect to a Wi-Fi network that doesn't require a password. And even then, you're still at risk. It's better to never connect to public Wi-Fi, but obviously that's not possible, right? So if you must, we recommend that you don't auto connect, because if I was a hacker at a coffee shop and I was looking for some good targets, people who automatically connect to my malicious Wi-Fi network that I set up would be really easy. Really easy place to start. So make sure that it's a deliberate one that you pick. Be sure to check for lookalike networks, which are pretty common, to ensure that you're connecting to the right one, not, Breaks with a 5 as the S or something, right? That you're like, that seems a little bit off. It probably is. And when you are connected to a public network, avoid sharing sensitive information. So just be a little bit more careful about what you're deciding to send, what you're deciding to look at and things like that. And VPNs are always a really good best practice whenever you're on a public Wi-Fi network to kind of add that last layer of security. So this is one that I certainly did not think that much about, but it really does make a lot of sense when you think about it. It's just one way to make sure that you're kind of keeping your data to yourself. And if you're on a mobile phone, mobile data is probably the way to go, rather than trying to search for the Wi-Fi. Step 9 is enable automatic updates. If you personally know me, you know that I really was quite bad at this. I hate updating my computer, but I do this now, and it is a lot easier, I must admit, than waiting 30 minutes every 3 months to update my computer. So automatic updates are really the gift that keeps on giving. It's like using an umbrella in a thunderstorm. It's not going to shield you from everything, but it's a basic step that's going to help you avoid many of the threats that I kind of talked about today. And step 10 is report suspicious activity. So this is really important. You probably think like, oh, no one's going to know, or maybe it's not that big of a deal. And this is especially important when you're at work. The sooner that an organization or the security team knows about threats or threat actors that are trying to target you, the faster that they can help you and mitigate that threat. So they can't fight an invisible enemy, right? So this information sharing, letting people know, is an easy way that you can protect yourself and get help that you might need, and then also protect other people. So this looks like reporting suspicious emails in your inbox. Most inboxes have some sort of tool that you can use. If you work at an organization who is doing some sort of security training, we have like a little button at the top with a little fish and a hook that we can use to report a suspicious email. And it will tell us it's either real, or if it's one that they've done for some testing to make sure that we're on our game. Report any suspicious activity. So I Just saw this a couple days ago. One of my friends was her Instagram got hacked, right? This is a woman who doesn't have a ton of followers or anything, but she was hacked, and now there's someone trying to sell like Bitcoin trading on her personal Instagram. So, I let her know right away. We reported it to Instagram. She reported it. I reported it. I told her, I said, make sure other people are reporting this as well. So anything that seems a little off or suspicious, definitely report it. And if you know or suspect that someone is impersonating a business via email, social media, a fake website, let that company know. So a lot of them they won't have any idea. The Venmo thing's a great example, right? Venmo might not know until someone reports that, so that they can go ahead and get that resolved, so they're not having more people get scammed. So the bonus step is to tell your friends. Spread the word. I just gave you a lot of information, a lot of tools. Even if you walk away with one or two today that you can help share and give to someone else, I think this is just going to be a really big and important part of our lives moving forward. So the more people that know these things, the safer that all of us can be online. I love infographics. So if you're like me, I print out everything. And I put it up in my office. So I will share this out after the presentation, excuse me. But this is just a lot of what we talked about today. Go ahead, share it wherever you want. But this is kind of like a nice little reminder to stay cyber safe at work and home. So that is everything that I had on deck for today. That was about 30 minutes. So I have the whole hour blocked, and I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone has. So thank you for listening. Yes, the cat theme is inspired, trying to make cybersecurity a little bit more fun where we can. So that's the premise behind it.
Hi, Kate. While we're waiting for some questions to come in, this is Risa, and I actually fell victim to this today. I fell for somebody's email and forwarded it on to other people because it seemed like a reasonable vendor request, right? I was wondering, at what point in the process am I actually making myself vulnerable? Like, if you don't click through links, or is it just opening the email enough? Like, I don't know where I fall into trouble.
Yeah. So generally the traditional, like, let's say like the regular attack looks like right now is where if you click a link, that is where you're going to start kind of getting in trouble. That's where they can start infecting your computer. That's when they can start getting into your computer without you realizing it. And more recently, there have been new attack vectors, like within the last 4 or 5 months, that are called zero-click attacks. So we're seeing this in text messaging, not necessarily email yet, but if someone opens a text, they can actually be infected and attacked on their mobile device. So it's becoming more sophisticated in that way, where maybe you don't even necessarily need to download anything anymore. But also, like I said, any of us can go on the dark web and buy like a really basic phishing kit for $20 right now. And those types, you're totally fine until you like submit some sort of piece of information to them. So it's a lot of variations, but I would say, you're fine. And I know that you guys used to use Aberdeen. Definitely let them know. They'll appreciate that. So.
Okay, what do you do if you actually do get hacked? I mean, if you get tricked, I mean, where do you go? Who do you turn to, I guess, Yeah. I mean, it might depend on the situation, but.
Yeah, I would say it definitely depends on the situation, right, Christina? So if you're at work, you want to turn that over to your IT team, like immediately, and just let them know, give them heads up. And honestly, most organizations, you're not going to get in trouble it's better to know about it than someone pretending like it didn't happen. And then that's when it can become a way bigger issue. So at work, definitely IT. If you have a cybersecurity team, that's obviously the best place to start, but IT will put that in the right direction. And then personally, it depends what kind of vendor, who you're using. Like for me, like just like if your credit card was used in the wrong way, right? You would report that to the credit card vendor right away. They had to call and you mitigate it that way. Same thing. So if you see something that's weird in your bank account, you reach out to that vendor, let them know, and they should be able to help you. The first step though is definitely go ahead, make sure that you have access to that account and change your passwords immediately, and try and figure out where that might have leaked in to start with, so that you kind of have an idea. Same thing, like even Google and Gmail, you can report like malicious senders so that they can then like block that IP or domain altogether. So it is a little situation dependent, but like I said, first step, make sure that you re-secure yourself to the best of your ability, and then go ahead and report that to whoever you can. I usually just do it to like anyone that I can. And I've even started like there's been a lot more smishing. So SMS phishing, where they'll send you a fake text message, that's been happening. So I've had a few where like from my bank where I was like, hey, this looks fake. Like doesn't look like this came from you. You don't usually text me. So I'm like took a screenshot and like reported it to them. So they were a bank. So of course they did not tell me if they were free. But yes, it wasn't from them. So, to report is always the best way forward so they can know and get it taken care of.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Where is a good place for us to like brush up on some of the terms and stuff you used today? I know that there are times that I hear phrases like VPN where I don't really know what that is. And so when you say make sure to use that, I don't know what that means. And so how should I keep myself educated on this?
Yeah. Honestly, I think a great way to go about like staying up to date is, following either one blog or a blog, following something that like interests you and gets you the level of information that you want it at, right? So like for me, I listen to podcasts, and I put a couple of those in my rotation every few weeks that I can stay up to date on the latest. Our InfoSec actually does have a really great blog that we put out every week. I mean, there's literally daily, almost new content every single day. So we have a lot of resources that you can go ahead and access and read through. But I think those are kind of the best places. The government also has a lot of really good free resources on this. One organization is called CISA, CISA. And the National Cybersecurity, something association. Those are two other resources that people should definitely check out. There we go. I'm going to try and see if I can pull them up, but they have a ton of really good information as well that you guys, I follow them on Twitter and on LinkedIn and things. So they give a lot of good like tips, and also like almost like weather alerts, but like it's like cybersecurity alerts. Like, hey, consumers, you might be seeing this. So, kind of keep your eyes out for this. So I'm going to pop these links right in the tab here. And if anyone here works with small businesses or is a small business owner, CISA, so the link that I just put in here actually offers like free security audits, guidance for like how you can make your own business more secure and things like that. Each state has their own representatives that go around and work with companies. So if that is something that you're interested in, feel free to reach out and I can help get you connected to that person. But also I thought, is Danica on the call? Did I see her? No. Yes, we do actually. We have a lot of really good resources that are kind of starting to emerge here in Wisconsin. Danica works with the UW Whitewater, has a cybersecurity center for business as well. So lots of good resources there. All right, any more questions? Any like really anything? I'm gonna find this for you guys.
This was really helpful. Thank you. Very timely. I appreciate you giving this presentation today, Kate. I'm sure that everyone else does too.
Well, thank you guys. It's becoming more popular. And like I said, it's something that I didn't really know all that much about before I started. So a little could go a long way. And I hope you all learned at least one thing that you can kind of take and apply to your regular life. So also tell your kids, if you have kids, this is a big one. I am now like lecturing all of my younger siblings to not be putting out so much information or to be a little bit smarter about what they're putting out and who they're connecting with and things like that. So just good things to pass on.
Great, thank you. Just to let everyone know, I am putting the link for our next event in the chat. Christina mentioned it at the beginning of this event, and I think that'll be interesting too and very educational along the same vein as Kate's presentation today.
Fantastic. I'll see all of you at the next event. Thanks so much for coming.
Thank you, Kate.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank
bye.
you.
Thank you, Kate.
Thank you, Kate.